Hi, my name is Jo Hadley, and this is my podcast, Being a Human Lighthouse. Anybody that's read my work on Substack or listened to this podcast before knows that I am trying to live from my heart, live from my soul, from my true essence. I want to know what this true essence is and what it's like to live there 100% of the time consciously. This wasn't what I set out to do. In fact, several years ago, I just asked the question, I want to know what true health is. I could see there was a correlation between the amount of stresses and issues in our life, our patterns, our traumas. I could see how that related to the chronicity, the recurrence, the repetitive nature of not only physical injuries and pain, but also chronic illnesses. I could see how stresses and emotional issues played out in my own life with my own health. I also, I saw it very clearly because I got to listen to patients and clients' stories over decades. And I knew that there was some component that we weren't addressing with the traditional approach that we were using at the time. I had a strong spiritual pull always, but it always took a backseat to my scientific, I have to prove it to myself, evidence nature. It was like two separate parts of me. But as I've gone into this work and asked more questions, I've learned that those two sides, the spiritual and the physical and emotional and the mental, are all interrelated. It's all part of the whole person, all of who we are. And to just look at one part in isolation can just lead to difficulties. It can lead to chronicity. But basically, it just doesn't give us the full picture or the full answer. Sometimes you need to just focus on one area. I mean, if someone has an acute infection, yes, you want to address that first and then the rest later. If someone's got an acute physical injury, of course, we're going to address that first. But if something doesn't heal in the normal physiological time frames, this is what I'm more interested in. Because usually if someone has a cold or a flu, it will heal and get better within a few weeks. It's a normal physiological time frame the immune system takes to get better. It can be quicker than that, of course. Secondary problems can make it a bit slower. Physical injuries often have a certain time frame as well. So if we heal and get better and go back to our lives happy and functioning fully after that time frame, the usual time frame, great. That's how the body's doing its job. It's working correctly. What I'm interested in is when things keep coming back, they don't get better. Or we have all these symptoms and chronic illnesses and chronic pain, despite a lot of the advances in modern physical medicine. The chronicity levels of chronic illnesses and chronic pain is just getting more and more. And from my opinion, and from lots of evidence out there, it's because we don't look at the full picture. There's research out there showing that we have a spiritual component to our nature. It's wired into our brain. It's partly innate and partly environmental. To not address the spiritual aspect, which doesn't have to be God or religion, it can be meaning in life, purpose in life, finding something that makes us get out of bed of a morning. It can be as simple as that. It can be being in nature, being in pets. This afternoon, I got out of my car and I'm living in Hobart, which is super hilly. And it was a beautiful day. And I turned around and I could see from the hill that I was parked on, the river below was just such a beautiful blue color. And the boats on the river were just, it was a really, really awe-inspiring or generating scene. And I took a few moments just to look at it and just breathe in the beauty of what I was looking at. Contrast to the day before, we had a miserable day. It was grey, so everything just looked grey and horrible. So, which shows another point that our perspective can change from day to day. So too can our emotions, just like the physical scene that I was describing. That view yesterday was horrible and grey and miserable and quite ugly, whereas today with the sun and blue sky, it was a beautiful, beautiful colours. Made me just stop in awe to look at it. So within 24 hours, the same situation, the same area created completely different responses within me, which shows that these things change. And when we feel emotions and when we get triggered, we know we should try to remember, I should say, the word should. We should try to remember that they're passing, that maybe in 24 hours things will be different. Allowing them space, allowing them to be there. But I'm digressing from my point. So I started off being curious about what true health is and realized that our beliefs and what's in our mind is vitally important. And that contributes to the biochemistry in our body. Because as soon as we have a thought, it changes the chemistry of our body, which will change the state of our nervous system, which can then determine how well our immune system and our digestive system function. The nervous system has two sides, very basically. It's the chronic stress or the stress state, and the other one is the rest and digest, the heal state, where we're most want to be in if we want the immune system, digestive system, reproductive system to work. Often when clients would come to me and talk to me of their symptoms, they nearly always would have other digestive issues or often reproductive issues along with the pain and the injury and other things that they had. And I would point out to them, if they're living in chronic stress state, then the digestive system, reproductive system, immune system can't work optimally. The resources of the body are going to be towards surviving, not thriving. So those functions, no matter how well you ate and changed your diet, if you didn't change what was creating that stress reaction in the body, it possibly wasn't going to change the reproductive system, digestive system issues. The body needs to be safe. It needs to get into this regulated heart rate, which is this balanced rest and digest state in the nervous system. And when we're in that state, we then access these chemicals that are stronger than any of the painkillers on the market. It's just that painkillers tend to work immediately, and we have to cultivate the ability to access these endorphins and dopamines, serotonins, oxytocin. I knew there was one I was forgetting. A lot of breathing techniques can help that. Anything that brings you joy and love will actually affect this. I used to be a long distance runner, so that was great for getting the endorphins because I tell you, the runner's high, especially after a marathon, is true. The day after a marathon, I used to feel like I was invincible and could walk on air. It was a great feeling. And I used to feel 10 feet tall, and I'm sure it was the endorphins coursing through my body that allowed me to feel like that. I do Wim Hof breathing sometimes, which can be quite challenging, but the idea around that is with the breath holds, and when you breathe again, you get this rush of endorphins, which helps the nervous system to rebalance. There's many ways to stimulate this system. It's about finding what works for you. And as we get into that state, this optimal heart coherence state, we then allow the possibility of accessing the higher dimensions. We are more than physical. In fact, we're not physical at all. We're just a bunch of interrelating fields, which is mind-blowing in itself. But when we access this healing state, the heart coherent state, we also open up the possibility of accessing a higher spiritual nature. That is what I'm interested in, living consciously within all the time. Now, to get there, I mean, some people have these oneness experiences and have these almost these massive spiritual awakenings in one go. A lot of times that frightens people, and I've read many accounts that people have had these experiences, and when they've come back, have ended up taking years to process and understand what happened. So getting there in a rush and at great speed can be very discombobulating for the nervous system and the body. So generally, we have to get there letting go of layers. It's my belief that a lot of the psychedelic medication used today is giving people access to this spiritual state, this higher part of ourselves, because it gets rid of all the mental, cognitive garbage that blocks us and goes past all the patterns and energetic layers that are blocking this inner essence, this core, the part of us that is called many things. It's interesting that if you talk to people about some of this spiritual, energetic work, they can laugh at it. Yet at the core of a lot of therapies, like I did fashion manipulation, their hands-on work, and realized that was, they probably won't like me saying this, but to me, the way patients were describing it, it was an energy medicine. It allowed the energy to flow through the body, and people reported feeling lighter and having like an emotional release. Feeling lighter and better after a session is often a sign of that energy is shifted. So I found when I was doing that hands-on work that I was getting that type of reaction. And because I also understand in some energy medicine, I do unity field healing, and I've done a lot of reading. I'm very interested in this topic. I know that when we're dealing with energy and letting go of patterns, letting go of all these emotional and mental energies that are in our emotional and mental bodies, because we have a series of layers to our being, and these energies are held in these layers, not just the physical. The physical is the most dense. So when we release anything, we usually feel lighter and a sense of well-being. It happens with meditation. It happens with the somatic therapy work or the somatic counseling work I do, by staying with someone in presence, allowing them to feel the sensations within their body in a safe way. And it allows them to let go of whatever this unproductive energy is, the coping strategy energy is, so then they can access the inner wisdom below. Counseling teaches that we don't give people advice. We allow people to access their own inner wisdom by asking appropriate questions and getting them to contemplate their answers, and then they will get access to their own inner wisdom. As a counselor, I never, and we get taught, we don't give people advice. The same thing with the compassion inquiry technique I use. I get people to feel the sensations in their body and to tune in and go back to different times in their life when they first felt it. And as they feel safe in feeling these sensations, it then usually passes to allow some inner wisdom to come through. So even in a lot of techniques that are very, I'm going to say, allopathic or well understood and accepted, we still have this belief that there is this inner wisdom underlying it. And we don't question that inner wisdom. We don't question what that is. People heal. Like if you cut yourself, you're going to heal. What does that? Your immune system does it on its own. If something blocks the healing, it'll slow it down. But if the body's allowed to do what it needs to do, it will heal on its own. Same with fractures. Doctors don't heal fractures. They'll put you in a cast. They may have to pin it together to help it. But the healing, like with anything else, is up to us. What is it that does that? Yes, it's the immune system. But what is driving that? There is this perfect alignment or perfect amount of energy that is needed to get us into what we call our alignment. Because if it's out of alignment, then things don't heal in the right time frames, or they become chronic. So we get that something's out of alignment, something's blocking that healing. So what is blocking the healing? It's often our belief systems. It's often unresolved emotions trapped in the body. And these are things that most people don't want to address because it's uncomfortable, it's unpleasant. And it definitely is. But to be a full human being, we have to not just feel joy, we have to also feel the opposite. We have to feel unhappy. We have to feel sad. We have to feel anxious. Because how would you know that you're feeling joy if you've never felt the opposite? If you only felt joy, well, lucky you. But would you know you're feeling joy? These different emotions gives us clues like hot and cold. We're getting closer. We're getting warmer. Our emotions give us clues to how close we are to living from this perfect alignment. The perfect alignment is when we are listening to our inner wisdom. And what is running our inner wisdom is this soul, this energy that's connected to this collective field all around us. And this collective field is known. So we are all connected. As each of us heals, we help everyone else heal. So as I've been trying to live from my soul, of course, everything that's blocking it has to come up. And we can't just take a pill and make all that to go away. No, the way we have to access our inner wisdom, our soul, is to witness and see all these patterns and beliefs and energies that are blocking it. We need to do that safely, of course. If it's too overwhelming, we need help of a therapist, a counselor. Sometimes we need medication. But if it's not too overwhelming, we can do this work ourselves by just allowing ourselves to sit and be with the sensations that arise, the emotions that arise. Or what is often common is there's these recurrent patterns in our life that just recur. I wanted to be a writer when I was younger. Up until 2012, I used to have these stories or movies channeled through me and I'd write them down. I never knew what to do with them, but I just had these stories. And I just loved films. I love stories. And of course, to write a story, you have to know what's happened to a person, their backstory. Also, with stories, there's usually a subtext. You've got the outer story, the big picture that's happening, but there's usually an underneath that's happening. This subtext and a theme. So often with the patterns of our life, it's like these stories. We have these patterns that repeat over and over again, but they're kind of like the subtext. Go below the level of the story to see what that repetitive pattern is. And to heal at the core, we have to find where this repetitive pattern started and what it is. Most people get stuck just at the story. Something's happening, they want to fix that. But similar things can often happen to them throughout their lives, which is a pattern. And we have to go below the story and find the pattern. I've found that in my life. I've had a pattern It's like with the writing. I used to love writing. It gave me the greatest joy. I would just channel and write these stories so quickly, but then not know what to really do with them. So then I'd go on to the next story. By 2012, I realized there's probably not much going to happen with this as a career. And I just decided to let it go. And also, over the last 10 years, I've just had this vision in my mind about what I wanted to create with a healing collective. But I've kept getting closed doors. Looking back now, I can see that I wasn't ready and I've been letting go of a whole lot of energies and patterns. But I kept getting closed doors. But I kept moving on, kept going on, thinking, okay, well, how do I do this? What do I need next? And I still have that as a pattern. I think, is this idea of a healing collective true? I mean, it has to be. It's been put in my head, and I used to be able to draw pictures of it 10 years ago. But because the world is not linear, we can have these ideas download into our mind, and they're not necessarily going to happen right there or then or within a linear time frame. As I look back now at all the closed doors, I realized I tried to do this to start with, but I didn't have half the skills or understanding that I have today. So sometimes this download is just giving me a map of what I'm ultimately going to get to. But I had to almost navigate through a map and learn skills on different levels. And maybe I will end up with this healing collective. Or maybe I'm just going to end up healing myself in this lifetime, coming back next time, and straight away being able to create this consciousness healing center that is in my mind. Or maybe just it gave me a map to lead towards myself. Maybe it was just a consciousness collective within me that I had to heal myself, because all the elements of this I've had to use in my own personal journey. I don't know the answer to that yet. But I have to get to these patterns underneath the pattern to get to the root cause of what's causing a problem. Because when we go and find the pattern underneath the outer circumstances, it's often a faulty belief, or it is based upon unresolved issues that have happened to us, usually in childhood. And today I was listening to a podcast and I heard a question that another person asked, which again resonated with me. And I sat and just tuned into myself and thought, wow, I have a similar issue in my life. How does that feel and where does that come from within me? So I sat with that and I realized that I do have this pattern and I sometimes don't listen to it long enough. So I gave myself some time to listen to it and allow it to be seen, allow it to be felt, allow it to be heard, allow it to express itself. And of course, I shed some tears, which told me I'd just let go of part of the energy that'd been blocking access to my true self, my soul. So I know today that I'm one step closer than I was at the start of the day. And it's a process. And I get frustrated at times, but again, that's a pattern, the pattern within me that wants everything now. And that's part of the pattern I was letting go of today, because there is that almost like a little 2-year-old that wants something right now. And if I don't have it now, it means I'm a failure. So I sat with that feeling and just sat with the emotions and the sensations in the body and imagined a little child within me saying that to myself and just hugging them as if I would if I was its mother. And I let some of those emotions go. So that's what I wanted to just discuss today, is just how are these patterns that keep recurring in our life and how often it's faulty beliefs or unresolved emotions that are there. And as we sit with them and be with them and love them, we integrate them into the whole of us. Sometimes when people are on a spiritual path, they sometimes spiritually bypass by thinking that negative emotions or things are wrong. But we have to acknowledge the parts of us that we don't like, the parts of us that we feel have problems. We have to look at them and learn to love them. Just positive thinking is not the answer. We have to look at the whole, and the whole involves the shadow. It involves emotions of sadness, of anger, of frustration, and a whole host of other things that we don't like to feel. We like to numb by drinking or drugs or watching TV or going shopping or scrolling through social media. It was quite funny because I was sitting and I was listening to myself and this pattern. And as it shed its tears, and after it shed its tears, and I felt a bit better, I went, oh, I just went to check social media. I went to myself, am I now just blocking some healing by doing this? And then I thought, no, I've actually healed and I'm on the other side. I feel pretty good. And because I was in the laundromat at the moment I have to go to the laundromat once a week. So I was sitting there doing this work and I thought, I've got a couple of minutes to go. I don't go on social media very much, especially my personal ones. I thought, let's just get that checked today. And I did that. So I knew that I did it consciously, but I did question myself whether I was using it to block feeling some of the sensations that had been coming up earlier. Because sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. Not scrolling through social media, looking at social media isn't always a numbing exercise, but often it can. I stopped eating sugar when I was running marathons, but having been in an unusual situation the last year where I haven't really been living in my own home, I've either been sharing with others or I'm in a little cabin at the moment that doesn't have a full kitchen. And I used to make my own little protein energy balls that were made with rice malt syrup. That was about the only sweetness I had. But because I stayed with friends and everyone always likes a few sweets, I have let a little bit of sugar come back into my life. And not that it's a bad thing. So I have my little conscious dose of sugar with my cup of tea in the evening, and I do it consciously. It's often about how we perceive things. That's the issue. I mean, too much sugar and just using it unconsciously can be a problem. But anything like having a cake or having some sugar in something can be quite okay if you are aware of what it does or aware of why you're doing things. It's our state of awareness that's the issue. I remember after my first marathon, my family was supposed to, over the time I was running, decide where we were going after the race. They didn't do that. So it took so long for my family to decide where we were going to eat that when we finally got there, just as I was ordering, I had a massive hypoglycemic attack and fainted. And I had to have a soft drink once I revived myself because to get the sugar up. So in that case, sugar was fine. That's what my body needed for that particular point in time. So there's no absolutes. It's about consciously choosing and consciously understanding why we're choosing something and doing something. Okay. So I will finish off today with a short meditation, as I often do. So if you're still listening, I invite you to lie down or sit down. If you like, close your eyes. And if it feels right for you, just place your hand over your heart and take 3 low, slow breaths and imagine it's going in and out through your heart area. But as you breathe in, low and slow, you're filling up every cell in your body with light, love, and information. As you breathe out, imagine every emotion, belief that no longer serves you is being breathed out to be recycled by the universe. Breathe in. You can imagine everything lighting up, every cell in your body, and breathe out everything you no longer need. 3 low, slow breaths. And just sink into the surface that you're sitting or lying on. Just surrender into that feeling of being held and supported by the seat or the bed. Feel your feet on the floor. And if you like, you can have a conscious connection with the roots growing from the soles of your feet to the center of the earth to connect you to the physical plane, the energy of Gaia, the 4 elements that make up our physical existence and world. And I invite you to imagine from the crown of your head, there's a cord reaching from the crown of your head to the center of the universe, connecting you to all that is, the infinite wisdom of the universe. And I invite you to just continue to breathe in and out, low and slow through your heart, knowing that you're connected below to the earth and the 4 elements, and above to the universe. And as you breathe in, you're connecting every cell in your body to the spiritual plane and to the physical plane. Just become aware of any sensations in your body. Is there anything your body wants you to know right now? Just be curious and mindful, and just know your body is talking to you in sensations. And as you give it some mindful attention, you're helping your body to let go and to integrate part of these energies that are blocking access to your inner wisdom. Don't try and change anything that's unpleasant. Just be aware of it and curious. If you're feeling pleasant sensations or even neutral sensations, again, just be aware of them. Today I'm going to invite you to imagine that there is a future you, a you that's coming from 10 years in the future, and they're right here with you now. If you could look into this version of yourself, what are all the potentials? What are all the qualities that you see in this future self that you'd love to develop now? Just keep breathing low and slow in through your heart area as you see and look into the eyes of your future self. Who can you become? Who is within you now that you can become in 10 years? How do they feel? Just imagine what it would be like to become this higher version of yourself, this clearer version of yourself, part of you that's closer to your soul and your inner wisdom. And just know that the seeds of this future self are within you right now. And as you breathe in and out, and you're looking into the eyes of your future self, you're sowing the seeds to reach this potential. That you are at your core, but you don't yet know because these energies and patterns are blocking the way. But as you look at this future version of yourself, the version of you that has let go of all these energies that are blocking, the patterns and beliefs that have blocked them, and they're living from their true authentic self. As you see into the eyes of this version of yourself, know that you're cultivating this potential within you now. Can you imagine what it would feel like to be that perfect version of you? The authentic you. How would it feel that you've lost all these faulty beliefs and the recurring patterns that have been sabotaging you? How much more peaceful will you feel? How much more love will you feel? How much more compassion will you feel? How much more joy will be there? And know that all these are within you now. What will this future you, the authentic you, what will you be creating in your life? If all the patterns and faulty beliefs are gone, what kind of life will you create? And what sort of people will be around you, assisting you? Just breathe into this possibility, the possibility of you. And now, as this meditation draws to a close, I just invite you to again just become aware of the surface you're sitting or lying on. Feel your hands and feet, what they're touching, feeling. Start to become more aware of the sounds around you. Allow your breath to become its normal rhythm again. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. I invite you just to tune in, scan your body, and just be curious if anything has changed in the few minutes since we did this meditation. Has anything changed at all? Do you feel lighter? Do you feel more expansive? Have you had an insight? Has a pattern emerged that you can see and witness? And until next week, have a great week, and may you become closer to your true self.